Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. It's been a while since we've done this, hasn't it? Hope you're all well. Happy Valentine's Day. I guess it's potential that no one will watch us tonight because it's Valentine's Day and everyone's got much more important things to do. But we are live and we'll be here. And clearly we haven't got anything better to do. I speak for myself, really. And then poor old Steve and Anna, who I've roped in, and probably are here out of compulsion. There they both are for a little wave. There we go. We'll be hearing from them later. Well, very soon, in fact, once we kick off. I am just going to share the podcast as I usually do on Facebook, just so we get going, and that is then happening. So I hope you're all well. Hope you've been enjoying things. If you haven't caught the debrief video I did like last week, have a look at that. I'm not going to be able to do it every week, I don't think, because I'm probably going to struggle this week, but it is half term. So I hope you're all having a good half term so far. And maybe it isn't relevant to all of you, which is also good. But then, what I would do is go and get a cake and make sure you in some way celebrate half term with a cake. It doesn't matter that there's maybe no school association to you. Right, I've almost finished sharing this, don't worry. It's sort of a necessary evil and something I can't do until we started recording, which is a pain, as clearly I'm literally supposed to be talking to everyone. And I put that in the wrong group, so never mind. Not so secret Norwich in terms of that. Done. That bit's done. So yes, we've seen who we've got on. We'll obviously go through the we've got 2 Premier League games, haven't we, to cover off? So we will do that. Steve's been doing a great job of holding the fort in my absence. So I'm going to try and catch up and look semi-competent again. Yes, absolutely. Not done any updates on our star sign and space puns. So I feel like I'm letting us all down there. But, I'm always hopeful of more. And please send more in, because if I read them out, I'll make sure I get them in. And yes, your comments and questions are, of course, always welcome throughout the podcast. And myself and Steve will be keeping an eye on them as we go along. And we'll try and bring some in as and when we go through the podcast too. And I think that's it in terms of the administration. So in that case, I reckon we crack on. I think I've got everything here. Oh, I better check my buzzer. That was one thing I remembered to do, isn't it? There we go. Just check that up. Bit quiet, boys. Bit quiet. Better. Right. With that done and everything, I reckon we crack on. So let's get on with it. I hope you enjoy the podcast, be it live, watching, or later. And let's go for it. How do we start it? I remember it's with this, isn't it? Right. Okay. Ready? Hello and welcome to 96th edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that sticks to its guns and its promises. Ain't if it didn't want to do it, and ain't if it can't do it. Oh my God, I am so sorry. That is, I don't know whose fault that is, but it's everyone's fault. It's apparently that was the forfeit that I said I would do if Norwich beat Watford about 3 weeks ago. And obviously I'm not going to do the whole podcast in a Scottish accent because no one wants. I mean, that was a Scottish accent.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified.
No one.
So if you wonder what the forfeit was.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Steve. There we go. Yes. Hello. Let's pretend it never happened. Hello and welcome to the 96th edition of On the Ball. I am Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for the Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well and not scarred. On the way, a pain in the palace, the boredom of City, and Anfield on the way. We'll work through all that and more with our guests this fine 2022 evening. And you've already heard from one of them. That is Norwich number one chief at NCFCnumbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Hello, Michael.
and City fan and budding journalist, Anna Say.
Hi.
Hello, Anna. Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone out there listening and watching. If you're watching live, I hope you're all doing extremely well on this Valentine's night. Steve, how are you? And especially, thank you for holding the fort in my absence for the past couple of pods.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and it's delightful also to be to the weight lifted of having to fill your massive shoes. I feel like I'm mixing metaphors now. Your big weighty shoes, and obviously I didn't have any forfeits to do or have to do it in a different voice. So actually, it was quite easy compared to the intro that you just delivered, which was commendable. I think, by the way, the forfeit was that you only had to say, so you've already gone above and beyond. You only had to say Billy Gilmore and Kenny McLean in a Scottish accent for the entirety of this pod. I think that's what the forfeit was. So I think as long as you can keep up that part of the bargain, and obviously it'll be mine and Anna's job to remind you if you don't do that.
Okay.
Then I think it might have been, I was having a listen back. I think it might be Toby, and I'm sorry if it's not Toby and I've got your name wrong, but that will make him happy and therefore we'll be happy. So yes, but I'm very well. Thanks.
So what you're saying is I didn't have to do any of that.
You didn't have to. You didn't have to. But we're all glad that you did.
I mean, I tried to write it out phonetically, which is maybe something I should share on Twitter at some point. I don't know if that helped.
I think it started well. I really do.
I did. Okay. Hello. The problem was, and I found this when I did a NCFC space with Hodgie, who was egging me on to practice live on the space. It's impossible to do a Scottish accent alongside Stu because he is so Scottish.
Yeah.
Which is, it's obviously, I'm sure, a blessing and a curse for him. Anna, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. That was an interesting intro.
Do you want to crack out a Scottish accent for us? Or?
I'm no good at accents. No. I'm not even going to try.
Okay, well that's fine and probably commendable. Well, thank you so much for joining us, both of you and everyone out there. We will. I reckon we should just crack on, shouldn't we? Because we've got quite a bit to get on with, especially a couple of Premier League games to catch up on. So in that case, I will get on with this week's headline act. And no, I haven't reduced the volume, so just beware if you're listening live, because the sting is coming. Yes, 2 Premier League games in a week. So we have got lots to talk about. I think we should start with Saturday, which may be backwards because it's the last of the 2. But let's go with it. I say, Steve, losing 4-0 at home to Manchester City. Most people probably shrug their shoulders at that. But did it really have to be like it was?
I mean, I can't really. I know I'm supposed to talk about it on a podcast, but I can't really offer more than a shrug of the shoulders either. It's kind of like, I don't think we played that badly, but you're just playing a team on a completely different level. I think there are separate issues there, but Man City probably the best team I've ever seen at Carrow Road. Just the kind of sort of robotic in the way that they create moves, and I just never ever looked in there. We did well to hold out for half an hour, I think, and we were possibly slightly fortunate to hold out for half an hour, but and we gave quite a good account of ourselves in the first half. But ultimately they scored 4 and they could have had 7 or 8, and we didn't even play that badly. All of our other rivals will lose to Manchester City as well, home and away. So I kind of feel like with Saturday we are no better or worse than where we started. And I don't really know what we can learn from that game. So there concludes my analysis, really. Hopefully Anna can be a bit more forensic than me.
Absolutely. Want me to go now?
Go for it.
Well, actually, I'm completely the opposite in the way I think about the match. I get frustrated when people look at it and go, well, what do you expect? We were playing Man City. And I don't think that excuses any of the issues or problems that Norwich themselves had in the match, because I wouldn't excuse some of the issues we had if we were playing, I don't know, Brentford, Watford. So I wouldn't excuse them playing Man City. I think that there are a lot of things that we could have done better. Obviously, we all know that when you're playing such a big team, you have to be on the ball the whole time. And I don't think that we were. I think that we let ourselves get intimidated by Man City and we let them dictate what was going on in the match. I think that there were issues. And like Dean Smith said after the match, it wasn't the fact that we lost. You can accept that. But it was the manner in which we lost. And I don't think that it was good enough. But, I mean, we will move on from this. We've got... obviously, Liverpool up next, matches after that, but I still think that a loss shouldn't be excused just because of who the opponent was. You should always be looking to improve and look at what you could have done better in that match.
I did obviously my piece on The Athletic after the game, which was kind of centered around mistakes. I thought it was really interesting how the mistakes Manchester City made at Carrow Road 2 years ago, which kind of underpinned the fact that Norwich even had a chance to beat them. And then the mistakes kind of Norwich made on Saturday. I mean, the thing about watching Manchester City is they're brilliant on the ball. Their passing is so crisp and accurate, and it's so well rehearsed that they know what they are doing. And that makes it very difficult for you to be able to deal with it. But it does kind of constantly get to the point where they get to the edge of the box, put a cross in and deal with it that way, or, you know, one way or another. You know, it's quite there's not, I don't know, they're sort of, you can be in awe of them, but they're not. I don't know how beautiful they are unless Kevin De Bruyne is bending one in the top corner. I don't know if I'm being harsh there, but I suppose it's that robotic element. You know, they are incredibly efficient. They are incredibly strong, powerful. I know they're not putting in a cross for a big number 9 to head home, but, you know, it did sort of surprise me how they get the ball in and then they kind of flood it with players because they're not playing with any striker, just a load of people who like to score goals, which obviously, again, makes it very difficult to attack. But then, you know, you look at the first goal and the third goal, the fourth one is a pretty soft penalty, I think, in the long and short of it. But, you know, like the third goal, especially, Steve, I mean, that is a corner routine where if Burnley scored that, we would be banging our heads against the wall going, what are you doing? And I don't, Phil Foden's ball in is good, but, you know, Norwich shouldn't be conceding that, should they?
No, they shouldn't. And it wasn't great. And obviously the first was because of a Max Aaron's mistake. I think we're all aware of that. I just don't see the point in kind of beating. And I know, as I say, we're here to talk about the game, right? But I don't see the point in beating them up because had they not conceded that goal, it might have been 3-0, or they would have found another way to have scored a fourth. I don't think the fourth was a penalty, incidentally. It was one of those that probably wasn't enough to have overturned it. But yeah, Norwich didn't help themselves entirely. But then equally, I'd say they may have made more mistakes in games that they've won. I mean, you know, they were pretty bad in the first half at Watford and they won that game 3-0. I do think that the opposition you're playing makes a huge amount of difference. And I'm with you, Michael. Man City don't really do it for me, to be honest. I think, you know, I think if a team has 70-80% of the ball, which they tend to in most games, then that's a pretty dull game of football. And they don't really play with that kind of level of intensity. It is well-rehearsed moves, and it's always incredibly impressive. Like, don't get me wrong, and not impossible to play against because you know how they're going to play, but it's just so difficult to stop them, and likewise to get on the ball in the first place. So yeah, I mean, Man City are obviously a great team, but I don't always think that makes it a great watch. And to be honest, the second half kind of felt futile, really. And I guess to some extent you have to put up with that in the Premier League, but I don't know, the disparity is too much for me. I just, you know, I can't criticise Norwich too much. I'd be more annoyed if Max Aaron's had made that mistake against Crystal Palace, put it that way.
Well, yeah. No, I'm not going to make that joke. I mean, the thing I suppose as well, Anna, is that we one of the things we really want is for Norwich to sustain their positive feeling and confidence once they've played Manchester City, once they've been to Liverpool, and then they have to play at Southampton, you know, and they've got Burnley coming. Well, they have got Burnley, but Brentford as well coming to Carrow Road. And I suppose, in a way, Steve's attitude is probably the best way of dealing with that, rather than maybe mine and yours at times, where it's like, oh God, what was that sort of in terms of defending. So there's an element of that too, isn't there?
Well, I don't see why you can't maintain a positive attitude going to Anfield, because I think that you could very much use that as a learning curve and go, okay, this is how we approached this match against the bigger teams. we've got another match against a bigger team coming up very soon, going to their place. What could we do better that we didn't do in this match? Did we let ourselves get intimidated, which I think they did? We let them get into the match. We let them dictate it. And I think that there are things that we could work on, that we could try and implement against Liverpool. I'm not saying that we're going to win, but I certainly think that we could give another good account of ourselves. And you never know, if the luck goes your way, then maybe you can get something out of the match. I'm certainly not going to write it off. I don't think you should ever write a match off. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. But then obviously after that, you've got the matches where you do look at getting points. And I wouldn't ever say be thankful for somebody's injury, but Newcastle do have a big player out now for several weeks. So that might impact their matches. And we've got to try and get points to counteract that.
Yeah, will be interesting. I think Kieran Trippier's broken a bone in his foot, and I think
they said 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Well, I think Norwich play them in 10. But it'll be interesting how Newcastle deal with that. Either way, I was going to mention that in a minute actually, but we can bring it on now. I mean, how do you guys see the picture at the bottom? Because we did a big piece on The Athletic about from all the writers of the team sort of involved, which included Everton and it included Brentford. I mean, I can see with Newcastle's business, Steve, that they might start, picking up just enough points to start making it very difficult to stay above them, which is probably the best way of putting it. So I guess it does rely on someone else. I mean, Everton as well, to be honest, they should probably have enough to get out of it. So are we now nailing it down to 4, but a different 4?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it is going to be very, very tough. I was looking at the fixtures before the Palace game and trying to realistically pick ones where they could get a win or a point from, and it's not easy. Like they have, as we know, a set of winnable home games, and they probably need to win all 3, if not 7 points, I think, and then maybe get some surprise results on the road from elsewhere. And incidentally, talking about writing off the Man City game, I don't think we should do that with games against other teams in the Big Six, because I do think against the likes of Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, even, you've got to look at them and think, well, Arsenal we've done now, but you've got to look at them and think, that there are opportunities there, and we have to be getting some unexpected points from now. I think the Brentford game, I feel like if we don't win that, then they're going to be very difficult to haul in, and that could be our last opportunity. I wouldn't say Newcastle are out of the picture yet, but I think it was always going to be tough, and there was always a chance that one of those 4 could start picking up wins. But we're still in there, and I think that should still be applauded given where we were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, here. We should just touch on the Palace game before that. Norwich drew 1-1. They scored the fastest goal in the Premier League this season, 38 seconds, I think it was.
Seconds.
Someone was telling me it was a shanked finish by Teemu Pukki, but I wasn't having that. It was just your classic Teemu sticking it, not maybe cleanly, but where he wanted to put it, because, in off the post, where else would you want to put it? Brilliant run from Milot Rashica to make the goal happen. Norwich had great chances, obviously, but then it sort of unraveled a bit in the second half. Wilfried Zaha did score a wonderful goal, but he was allowed to score it as well. And then he missed the penalty, which, I mean, I'm sure he did slip. I still feel like some people think he just sort of botched it, but I'm still pretty sure his standing foot slipped.
Yeah, his foot went
slightly
from underneath him, I think.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I think he's the first person I've known to agree with me on that. And I guess the biggest talking point, which I guess followed on from the Manchester City game, Anna, it was on Max Aarons, because he made a mistake for the penalty, which obviously Norwich got away with. We had the mistake for the first goal against Manchester City. I did notice just on our comments as we broadcast live, Paul Frake has been in touch. He says, "Does Aarons need a break?" Where are you with Max Anna? Because there's a couple of mistakes there, but I mean I've still felt he's been one of the best performers this season so far.
I mean, for the first time in nearly 2 years, he has a very good right back on his shoulder who's wanting to get a place in the team. And I don't know if maybe that's having an impact. Maybe he does need a break, because players who aren't concerned about their place in the team can get a little bit stale at times. I think that you've got a very good right back behind him there in Sam Byram. I think that if he did need a break, I would be more than happy for Sam Byram to come into the team. And I think that having him there can actually push Aaron's, or should I say Aaron's. And I think that can be a bit of a catalyst for him to go, okay, my spot isn't secure. I do have somebody behind me. Maybe I need to push on. Maybe I need to kind of take my game to the next level. I think that sometimes it can be a good thing. It's just that's Dean Smith's decision because it's how he wants to do it. Sometimes it can be a good thing and it can push a player on, make them want to do better, make them want to improve. Or on the other hand, sometimes it can be a real knock to the confidence. So it will be very much down to Dean Smith because he's going to know, does he put his arm around him and say, no, you've got this, or does he give him that break to push him on?
What would you do, Steve?
I mean, I'd keep playing him. I think I agree. Byram is exactly what Anna said. Byram, for the first time, we've got a right back that is pushing Max. But I mean, how many bad games has Max had for us, really? Like in since he started, I can't remember many. I know it's difficult to recall the bad games sometimes, but it wasn't a good performance from him against Man City. The Palace game, I actually reckon if you watch that back, take the penalty. I know the penalty is kind of a major incident. He had a really good game. Yeah, I thought he played really well.
He did.
And up against, and in both cases, Zaha and Sterling. Like, I know this is the Premier League and you're going to come up against tough opponents, but those are two really, really good left wingers. I thought he played Zaha exceptionally well until the goal, which was arguably more Pochetta's fault than Max's. I just think you've got somebody there who is nearly always giving you sort of 7 out of 10 performances. He's maybe just dipped below that level. I suppose the question is, do you put Byram in a game where they may struggle to win anyway and kind of give Max that time away? Equally, what you can't change about Max is that his lack of height. And I think that's probably the reason why he hasn't been picked up by someone bigger than us. But really, I just think you don't leave someone like Aaron's out, especially as he's not had a bad season. I just think he had a bad game on Saturday, and that's kind of it.
It'll be interesting. I think we've got the Liverpool Cup game coming up in a few weeks' time, which I would imagine Sam Byram will start. I think if Max has had one or two iffy moments in the run-up, and then Sam has a really good game at Anfield in that game, then maybe that's going to leave Dean Smith with a decision to make. But I think in the meantime,
I think Smith really likes Byram as well. Like he clearly rates him. I think we said on the pod last week, he's a really good pro, isn't he? And I think that goes a long way. So I'm pleased that he's getting a look in, apart from anything else.
It's brilliant to see Sam back at that level he was against Wolves, because it was noticeable very early in that game that it was like, Sam looks sharp now, and long may that continue, because he's been out for such a long time that would be brilliant. Right, in that case, I think if we're all happy, I reckon we move on to a bit of pick that one out. Yes, this is where the podders each get a short window to bring up an issue they're struggling to let go. If they lose themselves for more than 30 seconds, the buzzer sounds, which I've just got here. And then it will be time to let go. Maybe. Steve, would you like to go first?
Okay, then I will.
Go for it.
Okay, well, I think I've already covered the massive issue that the Premier League have got with Man City, so I'm not going to go there again. I think this isn't a rant so much, but I do think our lack of depth is going to hurt us this season. And I didn't advocate us going into the transfer window in January at the time, but I do think not bringing in attacking reinforcements is beginning to look like it's going to be tricky for us. If Ida's out for any length of time, then we have no other option really, and we don't have any strikers on the bench. And I think that's caught us out in the last two games where we've been good in the first half and not so good in the second.
It's true, Adam Ida, we don't know how long he's going to be out for, knee and ankle issues when he came back from a recovery day on Thursday. And they they've had it scanned, so they probably know the results, and they'll be sitting on that for the time being. We don't know as yet.
Sweating over it. That's what they do. They sweat over an injury. I think
They
that
do,
one will
yeah.
definitely be sweated over. Because apart from anything else, that means we cannot play the kind of. I suppose we can sort of play the long ball game. Sargent did a reasonably good job, but I think if we're going to stay up, you've got to keep everything crossed that Rashica, Sargent, Pookie, and Ida don't get injured for any length of time, because we need all 4 of them to be playing pretty much every game, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, well, all they kept thinking was that they had a big squad, so I suppose it's maybe it's where that strength is, I suppose. Great one, Steve. Anna, would you like a go?
I don't think I have much choice.
Correct, you don't. Okay, well, in that case, if you want to go around about now.
I'm going to go a bit controversial here and talk about the drum, the big talk about the drum. I'm not too sure about it. My problem is that when it first was brought in at the away matches, it was very much centered around negative, sarcastic, just downright miserable chanting. And of course, that improved once we got, I think it was the Charlton match, was it? And that improved once we got the goal in that match. And there's no doubt in my mind it has improved the away atmosphere. My only concern is that if things start not going the right way again, then it might end up being centered around that negative, sarcastic chanting again.
The drum debate. Well, it wasn't allowed into Carrow Road by all accounts, which is why there wasn't a drum there on Saturday. I have obviously been following the club for a very long time, and this debate does seem to come up every so often, generally when things are a bit rubbish or when there's just nothing else to talk about. So at least we're kind of in the rubbish territory, I suppose, because it's Premier League rubbish. It's not Championship rubbish. So it's not like this hasn't been debated before. My own personal view is that away from home, where the away crowd is concentrated, and you want to try and make a noise when you're surrounded by however many other 1,000 people who are trying to drown you out, I think it's great. I just don't know if at Carrow Road it needs it, because if the team are looking after themselves, then the crowd will get behind them, and you won't hear a drum because you'll have 10 to 15,000 people singing. So
the funny thing is that the amount of comments I've seen where people are like, "Oh yeah, we should totally get the drum, but don't have it near me."
Yeah, which of course no one wants. Not in my backyard, or the seat next to me. So there we go.
How does it work then as a logistical thing? Like when you say, well, they weren't allowed, did someone turn up with a massive drum and then they were just turned away at the turnstiles? Like if you have a bottle with a lid on it or something, how does that? And then where does it go? Who brings the drum? Is it in the Barclay? Is it in the South Stand? It's not going to be in the South Stand.
I don't know where it was going to be. That's a good question. But I mean,
so many questions.
I mean, there is a guy who is, he is the one who wants to take his drum.
Right.
So you need the individual who is putting themselves out there to do it, and then you need permission to be allowed it in the ground, because I guess some people with drums might throw them on the pitch at people. I don't know, but it's an item that you need permission to get in. So theoretically, if you were sensible, you would get permission to take the drum before you physically arrived with said drum, I would guess. So, yeah.
Is it going to be like? Do you remember that Portsmouth fan? I can't remember his name, but the one who basically
Mr. Portsmouth.
Mr. Portsmouth, yeah, who had the whole squad and legally in his name or something like that. Is it going to be? Is it our equivalent of that, or is it just some guy? I think if we're going to have a drum, we ought to make a celebrity of the person that carries the drum. But maybe we could have a vote on who gets to take the drum into the ground.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Would you do it?
Get in the press box.
I would sit there. I mean, yeah, it's probably less painful to your ears if you're the one doing the drumming, because you're just doing this all the time. Maybe we should have a podcast where we have in the background for the entire 40 minutes and see if.
Your stings are a bit like that already.
Yeah, watch out, Sting. That's very true. I mean, Mr. Portsmouth doesn't strike me as someone who would have asked permission to take his bell in.
His what?
His bell.
Yes, he had a bell, didn't he? Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, he did. Yeah, so it wasn't a drum he had. You're right, it was a bell. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
How long do you think before you got kicked out of the press box for taking a massive drum in and just banging it for the whole game? Do you think you would do you think they'd be like, Michael, just stop it after about 5 minutes?
I think a load of journalists would just start punching me. I think I would get knocked out before the drum got taken out.
Okay, we don't want that, really. Okay, so it's down to you then, Anna.
Basically. Oh well, I think we've clocked that off a treat. The only other things I wanted to mention: Angus Gunn. Good to see him pulling out a bit of form because this is his period where he's needed. I think you could almost pinpoint it. Really, he made that really great low save from Jeffrey Schlupp, who obviously conceded the goal to from a wide angle at Selhurst Park. He made that moment, and everyone just went, "Oh yes!" And all of a sudden, Angus was like, "Yeah, Angus," and the crowd were like, "Yeah," and everyone was really happy. And then that sort of carried on against Manchester City, Steve, where I thought he made loads of great saves.
Yeah,
really you couldn't blame him for the goals.
Made 5 saves, I think, and yet completely not at fault for any of the goals. Do we know? I mean, he's doing a great job, but do we know when Tim's back? Like, is there any more news on that?
There hasn't been any more news. The last time we spoke to Dean Smith about it, he said it was still expected to be the 5 to 6 weeks out, because I've got to be careful with it because it's not only just a shoulder injury, but he's a goalkeeper. So that's quite a dangerous joint really to injure. So I personally think it would be a surprise if he came back before Brentford or even in time for Brentford. But then would that be an issue with the way Angus has been recently?
No. Sorry, go on.
It's great, isn't it? That's good.
Yeah, we've got 2 cult keepers. That's a nice position to be in, isn't it?
Yes. Well, while one of them's not fit, it's a great position to be in.
You could argue 3 with little Mickey McGovern as well. He's
I do like
Brigham's
him.
favourite.
I did love your talk about his height the other week. That was one of my favourites editing the podcast.
6'3". 6'3".
I'm 6'1", and I'm convinced he is not taller than me.
Okay,
or
next
as tall.
time.
I seem to remember a conversation about that in Canary Call once.
Well, it's quite a thing. Footballers' height.
Conversation of, oh no, Google says he's this height, but he's definitely not this height.
But it's quite a conversation with all footballers and their heights. There are maybe a football cliches one this, but I think there's a whole genre of footballers' heights that are probably not accurate.
I'm certain of it.
Maybe he just looks tall next to the rest of the team because the rest of it, we've got some small players.
I mean, was Emi Buendia really 5'7"? And how tall was Paul McVeigh? Was that in the? No, that was just his lack of height.
Just lack of height. He's probably actually like 5'11", something like that.
5'11", I would think. Yeah, 5'11". Yeah, we'll have to ask him that. We'll have to get him on the pod and ask him when he's not really, really busy. The only other thing I wanted to flag up was the Canaries Trust and their brilliant shirts for Syria campaign. They've had huge amounts donated. I think even the club have got involved in that over the course of the weekend, which is great to see. And just have a look at the Canaries Trust feeds and website if you want to get involved. But well done to all those guys doing a great job with that campaign. In that case, I think we're done. So I'm going to skip through the halftime sting this week and get straight on to Centerfold. So protect your ears. I have to say these volumes don't seem too loud to me, but maybe that is just me. I did try and reduce them. So Centerfold this week, something a little bit different, I thought, which we could call it a Valentine's night treat if you wish. But then I guess if you're listening to this,
the only one I'll get.
if you're on the podcast feed and listening to it post recording, then I guess the Valentine's night is gone. So maybe a post-Valentine's treat. Anyway, I'm rambling now. With thanks to Nick Scriven, who messaged this on Twitter. He shared with me Susie Dent off of Countdown, her latest blog, I guess it is, or post on the Why Now website, whynow.co.uk. It's her top 10s, and this week, she's written, or this time, she's written her top 10 words to describe your football team. Now, I'm not sure if these 10 words are words she has now made up, or she has coined, or she has dug up and used in a football context, which would strike me as the most likely of the suggestions. And these are words to describe various different football styles or football players. And so I thought it'd be good if we tried to come up with a Norwich City player, past or present, that fits each of these Descriptions. I've read through them. Some of them might be more straightforward than others. Likewise, if you are watching live, me and Steve will keep an eye on the we'll keep an eye on the comments and see if you guys can put them forward. Although sometimes it's a bit difficult to keep track of which one's which. So you might need to put the word and then the player so that we know which one you're referring to. But there we go. Ian Barron, by the way, he's been in touch. He says he's 6'10". So, but I think we're almost not supposed to believe him there. So yeah, should we go through these 10 things? Okay, so first up is a princock. Don't pull that face, Steve. Princock, princock. The goal hanger who is only there for the glory and who somehow neglects to thank the teammates who did all the heavy lifting. It's great. Throw into as a princock.
Yeah, we haven't got any in the current squad. Oliveira, that's a good shout.
Nelson Oliveira is a decent shout.
I mean, Earnshaw maybe, but that seems a bit harsh to say that he doesn't thank anyone. But he does have that. I mean, that celebration is a little bit self-congratulatory, isn't it?
Anyone who does a somersault, I mean, that you haven't got any time to point at your teammates if you're busy somersaulting, have you?
Mark Hilton says Ted McDougall. Before my time, I'm afraid.
Oh, I love it though. That's a great shout. And he did score a lot of goals.
Maybe he's the ultimate princock then.
I had Robert Earnshaw in my head, I must admit. So good shout there. Okay, next up, a Nickum, Nickum, Nickum. This is the cheat, in commas, whose dives are a theatrical tour de force, or who puts their hands up in doe-eyed innocence after knocking out an opponent.
See, now that one reminds me of Bradley Johnson.
Yeah, he did have doe eyes.
And he did make a meal of that one time with Joey Barton.
Yeah. That's a good point, because you're looking at someone who's really hard, but will then also throw themselves down, which was sort of, I had a bit of Grant Hanley in my head maybe for that, because he can go down without
He did one of those. He did a special, like, I can't remember which game it was, but I love it when he's running to the corner and just waiting for that touch, and then he just throws himself like Superman. We've got 2 shouts. Buendia. Oh, 3 shouts now. Buendia, Lee Marshall, and actually this one came to mind for me as well. Huckabee.
Hucks. Oh, I wonder if he'd be happy with that.
Not sure he would be. What was it called? A Nickum.
Nickum. I feel like they need to be hard, really hard.
I think Hux was quite tough though, wasn't he?
I mean, I wouldn't mess with him.
I don't know. He didn't want to mess up that hair.
Yeah, there we go. There's some good suggestions there. I feel like there's someone I haven't quite thought of there that would really nail it. But let's move on to the next one.
Holty, sorry, just the last. Holty used to throw himself as well, didn't he? At the slightest touch, he was quite.
Grant Holt.
He was quite good at that.
Bit of a Nickum.
I did accidentally call Grant Hanley I did accidentally call Grant Hanley Grant Holt in my video on Saturday. I think someone's already flagged that up to the pundits prison on the scrimmage. So thanks for that. Right, next up, Whiffler, the thoroughly indecisive player who looks around frantically before passing and inevitably losing the ball.
That could be a lot of people.
Well, we haven't had one of those at Carrot because they wouldn't have made it. It probably would have been Alex Tetty if you'd asked.
Tetty was the first thing that sprung to mind for me.
Daniel Parker in his first training sessions, I think Tets would have been well on the Whiffler.
Although the ultimate whiffle was Kenny McLean against, I think, Stoke, was it? Where he played that pass back and kind of went, ooh, like that. That was a real frantic look. And actually, sorry, who played that pass again, Michael?
Kenny McLean.
That's it. Yeah,
I think he's mates with Bully Gilmore. Oh God, stop, Michael, stop! I can't stop now. I can't stop.
Yeah.
Bully,
okay.
Bully Gilmore. Just say Bully and it's fine. I was just going to call Kenny McLean. I was just going to call him Ken because that's what Dean Smith calls him. Ken. He's just Ken. Okay. Well, sorry about that, Ken. For the old Whiffler. The Pavanizer. The Pavanizer is the player with all the gear but no idea, from the Latin for peacock. I mean, I think that's more of a Sunday league, probably. Yeah, I guess you're looking at maybe someone like Julien Brellier.
Yeah.
Someone who-
Are these real words, by the way? Or...
Well, this was it. I'm not really sure. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if she's made them up or they're sort of dug out and in renewed context.
Well, I'm going to steal one for this that Declan Cotter has put. In fact, he's just put exactly the same thing for this one because he put it for the last one. Dermich
Dr.
had all the
Mike.
gear
Yeah,
for,
that's a good one.
he had all the
Dr.
gear
Mike.
for No Tomorrow, didn't he? But didn't really have much of an idea on the pitch.
That's a great shout.
I think that's a good shout. I'm giving that one to Declan.
That's a great shout, Declan. Well done. We should put this team out, shouldn't we, really? Okay, next is the Circumbendibus, which is the partner to the Whiffler. This is the player who passes the ball all around the houses instead of driving it forward.
I think you might have to get your Scottish accent out here.
That's a volley, isn't it?
It might be volley. We've had a few of those, though, I think, like over the years. I remember Carl Robinson being a bit like that and Fotheringham.
Fotheringham.
It's a Scottish thing, maybe.
Maybe just label every Scottish midfielder. That's a good shout like that. Anna, can you think of one?
I think that yeah, it's a good shout though. Billy Gilmore.
I mean, Peter Grant would have been good for that because he'd have pointed and then played the ball around as he was going. So that's grand. Jason
Brooks
Hayden.
Dorrans. We've got Dorrans as a shout from Craig. That's it's a Scottish thing, isn't it?
Graham Dorrans. I can't roll my R's, so that's a tricky one.
Hughes. Andy Hughes.
Andy Hughes.
Or Stephen. Could equally be applicable.
Yes, true. Just to continue the Scottish Scottish theme. This must be one for the Pavanizer, the player with all the gear but no idea. Stephen Bird, that Australian goalkeeper, who of course means Michael Theoklitos, or Michael Theo as he's called now, I think. So there we go. Right, we're doing tremendously here. Right, next up, the Huff Snuff. The indignant one who is forever muttering to... I actually love this one. Huff Snuff. The indignant one who is forever muttering to themselves, shouting at the ref, or scornfully tossing their freshly bleached locks whenever a decision doesn't go their way.
Wow.
I mean, if you forget about the bleached locks, I think you can probably pick Buendia for that one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think when you started, I was thinking, Craig has said Buendia as well. When you started, I thought it might be Max because I feel like he's always chuntering, but he's not really one to get in the ref's ear about it. So I don't think we have enough of that at Norwich in general, do we? I can't think of anyone else for that, really.
I mean, it does have to be Buendia, probably.
I think it's probably Emmy, isn't it?
I had Todd pop into my head. So is that me being...
I think that's the bleached locks.
Just the hair in it. Yeah,
I think it was just the hair. Yeah, I think you're right. Good shout. Right. Okay. Here is the next one. We've only got 4 more, don't we? Cacafuego, which is Spanish. Doing it all tonight. Spanish. Oh, I don't know if I can say that. Spanish for fire pooer. Only it doesn't say pooer. This is the player who is all bluster and little substance. Cacafuego was an impressively armed Spanish galleon captured easily by Sir Francis Drake. Don't say we never teach you anything here. Although, of course, Susie Dent is actually teaching us all here. So full of bluster, little substance. Well, I'd probably have said Josh Sargent earlier in the season. That would have been harsh, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Is he full of bluster though? I sort of that feels like someone. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, but somebody who thinks they're it but aren't really. I don't know.
I just envisage someone running around a lot but not being able to
have
effort and doing lots of stuff but actually not really doing anything.
I mean, so that could be anyone from like the Alex Neil era, really. Like, anyone from that Premier League season at all. I mean, again, it's harsh, but there was an element of that with Jerome and Diamersi and Bacani in that Premier League season.
Chris Killen. No one even remembers Chris Killen. I'm not sure if he had any bluster to him anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if he did.
Ricky Van Wolfswinkel.
Yeah, lots of
Ricky.
Johan Elmander, he ran around a bit and just generally looked fairly hopeless, didn't he?
Is it Juan Velasco? Juan Velasco, that's right. I mean, he ran around for about 45 minutes and then never played again. So maybe that's fun. Okay, 3 left. Dan Dilly. Dan Dilly, the fans' darling who can do no wrong. George Best was often told by Matt Busby not to turn up for team talks because they largely consisted of, whenever possible, give the ball to George. So who is the fans' darling?
I think surely we know that one. Lucas Rupp.
Oh, interesting.
Half the fans' darling,
Yeah, I
maybe.
would say that.
Maybe he's the manager's darling.
I mean, for me, that's got to be Wes. Like, there's an element of, everyone loves Wes, and there was an element in some of our teams who give the ball to Wes.
That's a great shout, Steve.
That is a good one.
That is over. That one is done. That is absolutely over. And okay, two more. Aliped, the Usain Bolt of the team who leaves all others in their wake, from the Latin for winged feet. I would probably have Shemek Poheta in terms of now, because he literally does leave everyone behind. But Hugs would have been a good shout as well for that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like there should be a caveat to, leaves everyone in their wake, but then, runs the ball out of play or stops at the defender's feet or something like that.
Forrest Gump style, just still running.
Yeah.
Paul Dalglish was a bit like that. He would get the ball and run, but he couldn't really change direction. John Otsemabor, he was another. He would only be able to run in one direction with the ball. And if he'd already started heading out of play, he was going to end up out of play. There wasn't really any way of changing direction. Rather harshly, Tino Tundra's been in with Darren Eadie. But
lots of shouts in there in the comments.
Darren would head straight for goal and he would stick the ball away. That's the great thing about Darren Eadie. Tom King, Noel Hernandez. That's a good shout.
Rivers, Forbes,
Yes.
Fox. There's some good shouts in there.
Gary O'Neill.
Gary O'Neill, I would say, is more of a. Which was the one of like being a hard man and occasionally throwing yourself. That one, I would say, is a Gary O'Neill.
The Nickham, the cheat whose dives are theatrical tour de force.
No, maybe not. I don't know where Gary.
That's Grant Holt, I think, maybe more.
Yeah,
than that one.
I'd say Rashida at the moment as well with his bolt-like runs. His whatever the last one was.
Anthony McNamee. Anthony McNamee is a decent one for the pace one. We've got one last one.
Okay,
which I can't really pronounce, and it is Unasinus.
We won't pull you up on it, don't worry.
One for the team that promises the world, and one for the team. So I guess it's a player. Maybe it is for the team. Yeah, maybe this is for the team. One for the team that promises the world and ends up giving nothing but heartburn. From the Latin for one ass. This means united in stupidity.
What does that one mean?
I guess we could give that to the team that played Colchester United at Carrow Road.
Okay, just promises a lot and doesn't deliver. Is that?
Yeah.
I think as well. Sorry to badmouth Alec Neil again, who was an excellent manager for us, but I think the team the year after we went down, when every other week they looked brilliant, and then we go away from home and they like lose to Burton and Rotherham and stuff. That they were the UNESCO whatever they were. I can't remember what the word was.
Yes, Unasinus.
Thank you.
Declan says Pritchard, but I don't know
great
what
shout.
For. Which
no,
one?
That one. That one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, he embodies that entire season. So I think actually that is that if we're looking for a single player, it's a brilliant shout. And Basong.
Well, I think you have to go for Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, because do you remember the hype he came with?
Yeah, it's players that don't deliver on the hype, isn't it? And I think he's a very good shout for that too.
I mean, he did deliver nothing but heartburn. That's probably fair. Well, that was hello, Walking India. There we go. Namaste indeed. Or namaste. I think that was fun, wasn't it? I think we came up with a player for each of those.
Yeah, was for me.
If anyone wants to come up with ones that we've clearly missed off, then please let us know. Send us a message on Twitter, DM me, or whichever. The details will be at the end. But I hope you enjoyed that. And Susie Dent's entry is on whynow.co.uk. So give it a look. Right. I think then in that case, we should move on to a bit of this.
This is almost fantasy football.
Again, hope that wasn't too loud. Yes, this is almost fantasy football. Time to look ahead, paint the picture of what we expect to see from Norwich City over the coming 7 days. We have one football match taking place between two football teams, and that will be Norwich City heading to Liverpool at Anfield. It's the first of 2 visits over the coming 10 days, because we've got to go there for... Well, sorry, we get to go there for the FA Cup 5th round. Yes, is it?
Yes.
It's fifth. Thank you. Yeah. FA Cup 5th, which is so exciting, obviously. I mean, Anfield, you mentioned it earlier, Anna. I mean, is this a tougher game than playing Manchester City? I know Man City are probably a better team, but this game is a Norwich's record there. Blech.
I think it can be a tougher game in terms of the intimidating place you're going to, rather than going against intimidating players. I think Man City players are definitely better than Liverpool, but we all know that ground is a very intimidating ground. So it's just about how Dean Smith works with the players and kind of tries to soften that intimidation, because I think that was a big problem against Man City. I think that going to Liverpool, you might end up seeing similar problems just because of where it is. So I think that I'm hoping that we learned a few lessons from the Man City game in terms of not getting too intimidated and knowing that we can compete with them and put up a good show. And I think, you never know, bit of luck goes our way, anything can happen.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. I mean, I say that, stay all that at the start, Steve. I mean, I have seen Norwich draw there, so it's not impossible. It's just this Liverpool team is much better than the one I think that Norwich were playing then, and they do seem really powerful. I suppose the only interesting thing, I mean, I've been slightly concerned. You know, Brentford only lost 2-0 to Manchester City. This team we've been raving at, they only lost 2-0 there. Obviously, Man City scored 4 at Carrow Road. You know, Burnley keep Liverpool down to only a 1-0 win at Turf Moor. Now Norwich have got to go to Anfield, but you know they've also got to go to Inter, haven't they, in the Champions League this week as well? Whereas Norwich have got a free week. So I suppose you would say if there was a good time to play them, it's probably now. And likewise in the Cup, they've got the EFL Cup final, haven't they? Just before we play them in the FA Cup. So I guess on the list of priorities, you wouldn't blame Jurgen Klopp for going, well, we could probably play 11 different players and we'll still beat Norwich.
Yeah, and actually, I think Guardiola might have done a little bit of that with City, because I don't think he picked his strongest team either.
Yeah, don't say that. They won 4-0, Steve.
Well, there was no De Bruyne, was there? Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It might not be the worst time to play Liverpool. I would probably argue that a better time to have played them would have been in January, when they didn't have Salah, Mane, Keita available. But either way, I think it would have been tough. Yeah, I think it's this. They've got to approach it the same way they did the City game. I do think there's an element of the way we play that is going to be slightly more difficult for teams like Liverpool to break down. Although there wasn't too much evidence of that on last Saturday with City. It's interesting you mentioned which game's tougher, actually. So I was having the same conversation during the boring second half of the City game, and we were 18-1 to win last Saturday. I haven't looked at the odds for the Liverpool game. It'd be interesting to see if they're longer. I suspect they probably will be. I'd probably be more confident of getting a point from that than I was last week. I just think City will always find a way to grind you down and look incredibly solid at the back, whereas we could feasibly score 1 on the counter, you know, or 2 on the counter against Liverpool. I'd like to see Norman back, preferably from the start, please. I think it'd be nice for him to get 90 under his belt ahead of a slightly easier run of fixtures. I don't know who makes way for him. Lays Malou, I didn't think was particularly good on the weekend, so possibly him. I don't know what else to say, really. I'll take us competing in that one again. I think, like, just if we can give them a game, if we can hang on in there 1 goal down, for example, with 20 minutes to go, then we could be right in it. And we look a bit more dangerous from set pieces, so maybe we could nick one there. Who knows?
Norwich are 20-1, I think.
Okay, so it is slightly longer then. Maybe that's just Liverpool's record at Anfield. I don't know. I mean, let's be realistic. We're probably not getting anything, are we? But
well, in fairness, I think it is now 16 games without a win at Anfield. So, you know, another 4 or 5 and we're there.
We're due. I see. Yeah. We're due. I mean, the other thing, the positive, I suppose, is let's just get these two out of the way. Like we can do that. Say, well, we would have lost those either way, and we don't have a game sandwiched in between. It's not another dent to our momentum. So in some ways, let's just do this now. Rip the plaster off, and then it gets easier from here on in.
Yes, better deliver at that point. Anna, who would you play?
I think you would get Norman in there. It's a shame he's got his injury, however long that is, because I would like to see him in there. I think that probably the same team, but get Norman in there instead. I think he can try and bully a few players, ruffle some feathers, frustrate some people. I think he'd absolutely jump at the opportunity to do that, especially at Liverpool. I think he'd love it. So I think that we just get him in there, and if we can try avoid making unnecessary mistakes, I think there's every chance we could get something.
The performances from Matthias since he's been back have sort of passed me by a little bit. I haven't seen anything from them to make me think, oh, he definitely needs to come in and start now. So I'm just conscious as to whether he's going to be a little bit. Well, there's a little bit of work to be done there, but maybe it's just because he hasn't started a game. I'm not sure.
Also, this goes back to the point I was making earlier about how we just don't look the same team in the second half. Like, we haven't got anyone to bring off the bench. Rashica normally runs himself into the ground and looks knackered by the end of the game. So he's coming on at a point. I mean, the game on Saturday was already done anyway by the time it was on, but he's coming on at a point where we haven't got as much attacking impetus. Maybe it's on him to kind of spur that, but I just think it's a difficult time to come on and make a difference, particularly when you've only just come back from injury. But I agree with you. I can't think of a single thing that he's done in what was probably around about an hour on the pitch in those two matches.
Well, give him the last 20 minutes again, get some more minutes into those legs.
Some minutes into the tank. Yeah.
We'll all be ready for Southampton. Well, guys, I think we're all done. Thank you so much for your time. That is it for the 96th edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that has never really minded walking alone, nor standing alone, for that matter. If you're yet to do so, make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player, and we are now streaming the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels. Just search Michael Bailey, The Athletic, Norwich City, and your preferred social platform, and hopefully it will show up. Ratings and reviews, wherever prompted, are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, sling me a direct message on Twitter at Michael J. Bailey. A big thank you to our guests this evening. Steve, it's been lovely to do this, and especially lovely to be reunited with you. So thank you so much.
How nice. Thank you very much yourself.
Anna, thank you so much for stepping in. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I'm on a hat trick now. It's my third time.
Excellent. Well, you're going to have to do something big and celebratory now. I haven't got a match ball for you.
Well, are you doing anything celebratory for your 100th coming up? The 100th show?
Oh, God.
I was just thinking about that today, and I haven't come up with any answers yet, but it's on my list. So I'll try and think of those. But yeah, it's not far away, is it? So planning is obviously one of my huge strengths, so I should be getting on with that from here. And as to prove my planning skills, we will be back next week I can tell you that much, for a fresh bout of Canaries Capers in another On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. And we're clear. Steve, Anna, all of you Twitterkers out there, welcome to Wits End. If any of you have stumbled across this for the first time and are wondering what on earth is going on and why the pod hasn't actually ended, listen to On the Ball podcast number 42, which went live on September the 8th, 2020, which was just after Norwich being knocked out of the EFL Cup by Luton, if memory serves. What a time that was to be alive. It's all explained there. Anyway, you can email this bonus part of the podcast directly by emailing Twitterkers, Twitter, Kers, @icloud.com. Or you can use the hashtag Twitterkers, Twitter, Kers. on Twitter. Just don't explain what it refers to, because this is a secret club for only those who discover it. Now, I have nothing planned for this tonight. Literally nothing. I'm so out of practice. I have nothing. I haven't checked the emails. I haven't checked Twitter. So I apologize if people have been desperately trying to get in touch with their Twitter's shenanigans. Yeah.
Which is exactly the same way that I started last week, I think. Which, by the way, I'd like to apologise for the heavily redacted, or the very short version. It's a long story, which I can't really go into. But we did record something, didn't we, Michael? We just couldn't use it because we realised collectively that it wasn't going to work at that time on that week. So, yeah.
No.
I mean, you talk about
which was a shame, because some of the premise of it was really good. Like, who would you want to be on a desert island with in terms of Norwich players? Which was roughly what the premise was.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of given my answer to that.
I mean, there was some other stuff that,
there was some stuff about hitting elks, which we probably shouldn't go back over.
Yeah,
but anyway,
poor elks.
I mean, talking about planning, though,
stuff, by the way.
Anyway, talking about planning, Anna raises a good point about the 100th episode. I don't want to get there before we get there, but I've done nothing. You've done probably nothing. I'm just guessing. Maybe you have planned it, and I'm being unfair. Like, any ideas of what we could do?
Is there any way to get a player?
Current player?
No.
No. You imagine them being allowed live on this. Goodness.
Which
I would love it. And don't get me wrong, I'll
midfielders
ask the question. I'll ask the question. What's that? Sorry, Steve?
Which two Scottish midfielders could we get in, Michael?
I could get Bolly on.
Yeah.
Or Ken.
Ken. Okay.
Ken's
just giving up now.
Ken.
I think you could ask. I feel like it's going to be difficult for them to critique their own team's performance.
What would it be off the back of?
Delia's a good shout.
Delia? That's just as likely, I imagine. I mean, one idea I had was the original, making sure we had the original podders on. So I think it was me, Ben Mouncer, and Chris Gorham. So one of my plans was going to be to get, say me and you, Steve, and then
I was going to
Ben
say
Chris.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, you're there.
Those 2 episodes for nothing that I just hosted.
Not for the party. So we could do that, but I know Ben's not the biggest fan of doing it if it's a video. But I'm wondering, 100th episode, maybe I could coerce him into that one. And obviously, by making that public now, I can put the pressure on as well. But they might be washing their hair, because I haven't even asked them yet. So they were 2 ideas.
Speaking of washing their hair, Stephen Bird suggests get ex-player Todd on, which that would be absolute gold.
Yep.
John Rogers.
Live link from Bournemouth, maybe. He created one of the goals for them in a 2-1 victory from behind.
Can I say, I hope he does well and they go up. I know people. Best Norwich players who scored.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That's the second comment I've put up by accident tonight, but it's fine because they're all good ones. No one's sworn. Tom King, best Norwich players whose squad numbers add up to 100. I mean, we've got 4 weeks to work on that one.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you mean there, Tom, is an 11 where their squad numbers equal 100.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just have 100 Tim Krulls, couldn't you?
Well. Yeah.
What would be better, 100 Tim Krulls or 10 Kieran Dowells? Which would you rather have?
100 Tim Krulls.
Yeah,
I think we've already done that one, haven't we? You're not gonna. Yeah, you're more likely probably to get by sheer volume of people to score, and obviously Tim would keep the ball out, whereas. There's only 10 a Kieran, so he's already a man down, really, isn't he?
Yeah, so you stick 100 people in a goal, they're going to keep it out, aren't they? Yeah. Tom says any combination, not necessarily a squad. So
thanks, Tom.
So
there is.
I'm going with 100 Tim Krulls early, but we've got 4 more episodes to work out.
Okay.
To work this out.
Yeah, and people get their suggestions in because this is Twittercast. This is your part of the podcast, the secret part. So just email Twittercast. What was it? Twittercast@icloud.com
You're asking
with
them
your
to do your job for you.
11.
Yeah,
Well, I want to know.
preferably.
No, Anna, I want engagement. I want people to come up with their teams. And then I can assure you I will come up with mine now. I've committed to that, but I've got 4 weeks to do it. So, yeah, if there's anyone would like to see on the 100th episode, we could just try and get them.
Paul Lambert.
Paul, thanks, Anna. Really not helping here. Yes, David McNally. I'll give him a go.
I mean, you say that, Michael. It's going to end up being like me, you, and Stuart, isn't it? But
Well,
let's
hey,
but
Yeah,
let's
if you-
try.
I tell you what that is. That is the formula of success that got us to 100 podcasts. That's all that is right there. But yeah, so if anyone has any suggestions who they'd like us to dig out of the cupboard of Norwich stock,
Just not
come
Paul
wheel
Lambert,
out.
please.
Maybe not Paul Lambert, maybe.
I'm sure there's plenty of ex-players you could get on.
But then what do we do? Do we pick one, or do we just have loads of them on?
You could have a few, like a bit of a longer show, have a few minutes for each of them.
Rotate them on. Just
Yeah.
get them to sort of queue up and come on and off again. We could do. Yeah.
I mean,
You've got to do something special, have it a bit different.
I love that we're having basically a planning meeting.
that's
with
exactly
Twitters,
what we've turned Twitters into a
which is
planning
great.
meeting.
Which is great. But then I didn't plan it. So what was anyone expecting? Obviously, I know I need to do all the pun stuff. I haven't forgotten, and I do actually keep it considerably. You know, I take a lot of pride in our Zodiac Whitbread. And
Can I throw love/romance puns out as it's Valentine's Day? I
God,
don't know if,
yeah,
don't know
go
if
for it.
anybody.
What,
I have none. I have none.
Oh, you haven't
to
got
speak
any?
of. No.
Oh wow. Okay.
But I just wondered if anyone would have any
All right.
in
Hang on.
the comments.
Brilliant. If any of the public have any of it, well, let's have a look at the squad. This isn't going to go well. Please, anyone, jump in as well.
I feel like it could be some really inappropriate answers as well.
Yeah, no, this is very true. Milot Rakishya.
That's not bad, actually.
Milot Rakisha.
Rakisha.
Yeah.
Sorry, I really shouldn't have thrown this out there without having
Pierre Les Melov. It's not going to get any better, this.
No one's bailing you out in the chat.
Pucky. No. Ballygolmore. No, I just want to say Ballygolmore. And that's probably done. Yeah. So no is the answer.
Mary Kane, says Tom King.
Mary Kane. That's lovely. Maybe Palace was easier. No.
Let's not repeat the last 30 seconds
Should we
again.
end?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Schlupp. Just sounds like a nice romantic name, doesn't it?
Rob Scagnelli, sorry if I said that wrong, Rob, says 100th episode needs a drum. So, Michael, you're a musician, so perhaps you could see if you've got a drum kit knocking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could get the melodica out.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Off of TNC fame. Oh, there we go. In fact, there we go. Yes, that seems sensible. I'm gonna have to write down all these ideas. This is the problem. We've had a planning meeting. No one's writing any of this down. That's a lovely one, Tom. Justin, fancy you. I mean, that is ideal for Valentine's Day as well, because there's no commitment to love there. It's just the pure lust of it.
I feel like it might be a good note to end on. Sorry, I don't want to do your.
Possibly.
I don't want to do your.
I wasn't
podcast for you. I'm getting above my station.
I wasn't so sure it was when I said it, but let's just go with it now, shall we? Brilliant. Well, that was loads of fun. Unless anyone has Kenny other business. Kenny other business.
Kenny.
Well done. I want to read my intro out again. I thought that was really successful. In that case, I'm going to wrap it up. Steve, Anna, thank you so much. I will say goodbye to you now. And if you want to say goodbye to everyone on 3, that would be wonderful. 1, 2, 3.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And there they go. That is delightful. I will mute them. And we will be back next week with a fresh bout of Canaries Capers in another On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. And that is the end of the podcast recording. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us on this Monday. I hope it was fun for you when, we don't bother with Valentine's stuff anyway, do we? So Yeah, it was lovely to be back and do that. Thanks again, Steve and Anna. Take care of yourselves, and we will all see you next week for another podcast next Monday. So until then, au revoir.